This is the AI briefing from Bosio.digital. Today, a new model is topping the charts, your feed says switch, and that familiar feeling is back. Are we missing out? Here's what switching actually costs and the architecture that makes the question easy. You know the moment. Your company runs its AI on a provider you chose deliberately. Claude, OpenAI through Azure, Gemini, wherever you landed. The workflows work. People finally use the thing. And then Thursday happens. A new model drops, the benchmark charts go vertical, and your feed fills with people announcing that everything you built is now obsolete. Switch, they say. It's cheaper, it's better. What are you waiting for? By Friday, the question has found its way to you. From a board member who saw a headline, from an engineer who ran a weekend test, or from your own head at 11 at night. Are we missing out? This week, the trigger is Kimi K3 from the Chinese lab Moonshot AI. In February, it was a different model. In 6 weeks, it will be another one. The feeling is the same every time, and it deserves a real answer instead of a vibe. So this briefing does two jobs. First, an honest look at what actually shipped, because 2 of the 3 claims in your feed don't survive contact with the numbers. And second, the deeper question underneath. What does switching actually cost? When is it right? And how do you build so this feeling never runs your strategy again? Start with what shipped, and credit where it's due because the release is genuinely significant. Kimi K3 is a 2.8 trillion parameter open weight model. Open weight means you can download the model itself and run it on your own machines. And this is the largest open weight model anyone has ever shipped. It has a 1 million token context window, reasoning switched on by default, and Moonshot has promised to release the weights themselves within days. Their president told Fortune the constraint became the strategy. They didn't have the luxury of simply scaling up compute, so they were forced to focus on fundamental research and efficiency. That's a real achievement and a real philosophy. Now, the 3 claims your feed is making. Claim 1, it's cheaper. Partly true. K3 lists at $3 per million input tokens and $15 per million output tokens. That's roughly 40% below Claude Opus at list price. It's also, and this is the part the hype skips, the most expensive model a Chinese lab has ever released. Roughly triple the price of its own predecessor, so yes, real price pressure at the frontier, but cheaper than Opus at list price is a long way from practically free. And if you've followed our work on AI costs, you know list price is the least interesting line in an AI budget anyway. AI agents, systems that take many steps on their own, multiply tokens 1,000-fold. Caching, orchestration, and workflow design move your real bill far more than a 40% list price difference ever will. Claim 2. It's better. On one benchmark, genuinely. K3 took the top spot on the Arena Leaderboard's front-end coding evaluation in blind developer testing, ahead of every model. That's real? But on the broadest independent index, the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, K3 sits behind Claude Fable 5 and GPT 5.6. And here's the part almost nobody quotes. Moonshot's own self-reported benchmarks say the same thing, mostly beating the previous generation of frontier models while losing to the current leaders. A remarkable model, the strongest open weight model ever, and not the best model available by its own maker's accounting. Claim 3. There are no rails. This one has the least behind it. We could not find any Moonshot statement claiming the model ships without guardrails. What Moonshot's own technical notes actually say is more interesting. On ambiguous tasks, the model, quote, may make unexpected decisions on the user's behalf. And switching a session onto K3 midstream comes with a warning that generation quality may become, quote, highly unstable. Sit with that. Even the model's maker is telling you a switch isn't a drop-in. What is true, open weights mean the safety layer is yours to build. Nobody else's content filters, and nobody else's incident response, red teaming, or liability coverage either. No rails isn't a feature that ships with the model. It's a department you're volunteering to staff. So why does every release feel like falling behind? 3 reasons. First, the cadence. In the 5 months before K3, the Frontier shipped new flagships from 8 different labs. Multiple releases per quarter, each arriving with charts that show it beating whatever you're running. If your strategy reopens the provider question every time that happens, you don't have a strategy. You have a subscription to anxiety. Second, what launch day numbers can't tell you. Benchmarks measure standardized tasks under launch conditions reported first by the vendor. They cannot measure the only thing that matters to you. Performance on your work, inside your workflows, judged by your quality bar. One independent tester put it plainly in launch week. He uses Claude daily for client work, and he's not switching that over on the strength of one launch week's benchmarks. Third, the incentive structure of your feed. The people telling you to switch are overwhelmingly people for whom switching costs nothing. Individual developers with a terminal open, no compliance sign-offs, no trained workforce, no wired-in workflows. Their advice is honest from where they sit. It just doesn't price in anything about where you sit. And that brings us to the reframe that makes this whole question tractable. You never chose a model. You chose a system, and the model is one component of it. Walk the inventory. 6 layers of real switch touches. 1. The context layer. Everything you taught the system about your business. The knowledge itself travels to a new model, but the way that model interprets it does not. 2. The prompts and skills tuned to one model's quirks over months. Researchers now have a name for the rework. Prompt migration. 3. The workflows and integrations wired to one provider's behavior. Every connection is a small rewrite and a new failure mode. 4. The evaluation record. Months of accumulated evidence about where your current model is reliable. With a new model, your error map resets to 0. 5. The governance sign-offs. Security review, legal review, data agreements. A new provider reopens every one of them. And 6. The people. Your team spent months learning when to trust the system and when to check it. That calibrated trust is the most expensive asset on the list. It's invisible on every migration plan, and it does not transfer. This is why the strongest statistic in the whole switching debate isn't a benchmark score. In February, the automation company Zapier surveyed 500 enterprise executives about AI vendor dependency. 89% believed they could switch AI vendors within a month. Among those who had actually attempted a migration, fewer than half called it smooth. Most said it either failed outright or took far more effort than expected. The gap between those numbers is the switching illusion, measured. Executives aren't wrong that switching is possible. They're wrong about what it costs. One tech journalist covering that survey named the mechanism precisely. Once AI is woven into internal processes, connected to other systems, and tuned to specific workflows, it has dependencies, edge cases, and little adaptations that nobody documented. That's the journalist. Here's why nobody documents them. Nobody experiences them as decisions. You discover them the way you discover load-bearing walls, by removing one. Now, the other side of the argument, the case for switching, stated just as plainly because the philosophy under the hype is legitimate. Multi-model is already the emerging norm. In a major survey of enterprise AI buyers last year, 37% were running 5 or more models in production and rising. Optionality is a documented strategy pursued by sophisticated buyers, and open weights are its strongest form. A model you possess cannot be repriced, deprecated, or policy changed out from under you. So when does a switch actually clear the bar? 4 cases. Case 1. When your own evaluations say so, on your own workload, at your own quality bar. Case 2. When the workload is narrow, high volume, and self-checking. Like front-end code generation, the one benchmark K3 genuinely leads. Case 3. When compliance or geography forces the question. And case 4. when the economics are real at your volume, fully loaded. If you plan to run the model yourself, that includes the hardware. Industry estimates for hosting K3 start around 650 gigabytes of memory. That's server room hardware, not a laptop. Free model and free to run belong to very different budgets. What all four cases have in common: they're decisions made against your own data on your own timeline, not reactions made against someone else's launch chart on launch week. Which brings us to the actual cure for model FOMO. Why does "are we missing out" have such teeth? Because most companies genuinely cannot answer it. They have no mechanism that takes a new model and returns a verdict. So every release becomes a referendum, and the anxiety compounds. The companies that shrug at launch charts aren't calmer people. They have better architecture. 3 pieces. 1. A standing evaluation harness. A few hundred representative tasks from your real work with your quality bar encoded. Any new model can be run against it in days for a few $100s of tokens. This is the whole trick. With a harness, the question stops being a strategy debate and becomes a ticket. Run the suite. Look at the scorecard. Decide with numbers. 2. A swappable protocol layer. Keep the connection between your AI and your business systems on open protocols, not one vendor's proprietary surface. The industry itself expects churn here this summer. Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, Snowflake, and ServiceNow lined up behind a shared agent connectivity standard. You don't need to pick the winner. You need the wiring to be repluggable when the market picks one. 3. A model-agnostic context layer. Your business knowledge kept in plain, portable form that any capable model can consume. The context is yours. Keep it in a shape that travels. And notice what this architecture also buys you: the confidence to not switch. When you can prove the new model doesn't beat your current one on your work, the launch chart loses its power over your Thursday. And when it does beat it, you'll be the company that adopts on evidence, weeks ahead of the ones still arguing about benchmarks in the boardroom. One more thing, in the interest of full disclosure, because a skeptical listener has earned it. We build on Claude. Our own operating system, our client systems, all Claude native, by deliberate choice. So yes, an AI consultancy that builds deep systems on one provider is telling you switching is expensive. You should notice that incentive. Here's how to check our math. The argument doesn't depend on our word. It's built on Moonshot's own documentation, on survey data, and on the independent leaderboards. And our recommendation isn't stay with your vendor. It's build the harness that would prove us wrong. An evaluation harness doesn't protect our model choice, it audits it, ours included. If a model beat Claude on the work we do, at the fit we need, we'd move. That's what owning your architecture means. That was this week's briefing, the Kimi K3 hype, and what switching AI models actually costs. The full article is on the site. Every source, the 6-layer switching inventory, and a prompt you can paste tonight to run the switching cost audit on your own setup. This has been the AI briefing from Bosio.digital, where AI transformation starts with your people. Thanks for listening.